Hello everyone and welcome to Atomic Mass Transmissions live stream number 11 from my home. We got that problem solved. I hope you guys have all had a great and wonderful weekend. Staying safe and secure, doing everything right out there. We're going to continue on our Thanos month. If you didn't join us last week Dallas and I began work on our Thanoses, Thanos-I, Thanos-E, however you want to say it. So I'm going to be continuing today, finishing off the Mad Titan. So let's just dive right in, get off this camera on my fancy-dancy face, and just move to the miniature itself. So, last week we kind of started in on our alternate color scheme Thanos. I decided I wanted to go with kind of like a really desaturated white-purple. With some like lavender in there and stuff, and just really kind of get that corpsey feel. I want this Thanos to feel kind of like a dead fleshed kind of body, just to drive up that sinisterness without using like the traditional like blacks, reds, those kinds of things. So we're playing with a really desaturated palette. So this is kind of where we left off in terms of the suit itself. So you can see how we have like those really nice kind of desaturated lavender undertones. It's got that kind of more bluish white tinge on top for the highlights. And today I'm going to basically work on armor plating. So we're going to dive into all of his armored sections, probably get to the Gauntlet a little bit. And for that I'm going to be using some really light metals. So I'm going to start with this speed metal, which is almost a pure white metal. And I'm just going to start layering that over because, again, we want to take this guy in a very different direction from dark. We're going to use really desaturated colors, really white, kind of keep them really light. And then I think for the Gauntlet, I've been playing around with some ideas. But right now my current thought or musing is to maybe do the Gauntlet in kind of a dark steel, like maybe a scale 75 black metal to make it really stand out and kind of give it that different pop. But we'll see where we want to go with that. So with this in mind, we're just going to start layering in all of our metallics here. This is probably not going to make a huge difference except to give us a little bit of a shine. But that's what we want. We want to keep this guy pretty light, pretty bright in terms of just kind of his color saturation. So playing with something different for the Mad Titan for sure. So I'm just going to lay in a nice little base coat using my speed metal here. And we're going to hit pretty much all of the different armor spots. And then depending on how we feel about that, we may go back and add a little bit of like amethyst metal to the shadows, just give it a little bit of a purple tinge so that it pairs nicely with how our cloth is working out, or we might just leave it as white. And then we'll come up with an accent color that'll be kind of fun to play with as well, just to give it a little bit more visual interest. But to start, we just have to get this base coat laid down and put on. Building stuff up. I hope everyone out there has been had an enjoyable weekend. It was very rainy for us here. We had like short spurts of nice weather, but otherwise it was pretty indoorsy weather. A lot of hanging out inside, playing games, that kind of stuff, which isn't by itself a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. I think we're going to want to do boots as well. Let's get in there. We're just going to make sure that he's really shiny. I'm just doing a pretty standard base coat approach here. I loosen the paint a little bit, but definitely didn't thin it down into a wash or anything like that. This will probably take a couple of coats to get on in a way that I'll be pretty happy with. So we want to make sure that it's got some nice even coverage so we can play with it a bit. That's alright. But again, we're just kind of following that traditional Thanos color scheme. Just doing our own take on it. Doing a different interpretation. What we have going on. Flip this out. Kind of like the cloth itself. Got a decent amount of real estate to cover with this stuff. We're just going to do thin, even-ish coats, and then we can go back and even it out with our second coat. So if you see, as you do this kind of stuff, that the paint is not opaque. Most paints aren't 100% opaque. Most paints are translucent, which just means that they show the colors underneath. That's totally natural for just about every paint. Some paints are more opaque or translucent than others. Your lighter colors are typically a lot more translucent. They have their struggles in covering colors underneath. So there's a couple ways to tackle that. You could lay down a mid-tone, like a base coat mid-tone. So we could have started with, say, a heavy metal from scale 75, which is kind of right underneath this speed metal. And I got a little sloppy, so just use my secondary brush and wipe that away. Always good to keep a second brush with you, keep it a little damp. You can quickly erase and fix any mistakes if you go over. It's a real lifesaver and time saver. It'll help you from having to go back and repaint over mistakes. Boot going. This done. So I know a bunch of my fellow United Statesians this Friday were able to finally get their hands on several releases, including Black Dwarf and Ebony Maw, Corvus and Proxima, and I think Gamora and Nebula were also this Friday. Saw a lot of really cool pictures of people putting their stuff together and getting paint on those minis. Very exciting stuff, looking really great out there. We love seeing that stuff from you guys on the social media posts and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Super cool. Very excited to hear all the game reports and stuff as people put them on the table. We got another batch of releases for the United States coming out. Was it like the last week this month? Something like that. But the rest of the missing COVID releases will be out. And in stores, which will catch our neck of the woods up with the rest of the world. So it'll be pretty exciting. So I think that's like Black Widow, Hawkeye, two really awesome minis that I had to paint. And then, what's the other one? One other one. I don't remember what it is now. Drax and Ronan, maybe? That sounds right. So, and then, of course, our big bad boy Thanos here. It's going to be coming out next month in July. I don't have a date on that, unfortunately, but I'm told it'll be pretty early July. So maybe we'll see him right after the 4th, which of course is a holiday for us in the United States. Really interesting one this year. So I definitely think that I'm going to want to do something different for the Gauntlet just to make it kind of stand out. I want to make that the focal point because the Infinity Gauntlet is kind of a big deal. I mean, I know Thanos is pretty important too, but the Gauntlet is it's definitely deserving of a little special attention. So I'm not going to do it all bright steel, but we might just layer down this speed metal on it and then just play from there. See where the Thanos muse takes us. Sometimes it's fun to go into things without really having a full-blown plan. And just kind of letting the mini and the creative process speak to you. Using the side of the edge of the brush, the side of the brush, the flat of the brush, whatever you want to call it, to do this kind of banding on his helmet. So rather than using the point, you see I'm just using that like flat of the brush, just kind of going over it. This is a really great way to do edges and things like that. That might be a little trickier to control, because that edge will give you a lot of really nice control over where your paint's going. A lot of times I'll tell people don't try to draw straight lines. The human hand can't really do it. It wasn't really ever meant to do straight lines, so find ways to make that easier. So using the edge of the brush and just kind of like letting the raised detail of the miniature do the job for you. It's a great way to do it. If you can't do that, a lot of times I'll just tell people, just go in and just touch with the brush and a little bit of loose paint. Because that paint wants to flow off the brush, so the paint knows what it wants to do. I mean, it's going to flow. You don't have to draw it on. You don't have to draw these details on. The details are already there. So if you just kind of take that approach where you come in and you tap where you want that paint to go, it's going to work just as well as if you try to draw it on. And you're going to have a lot more control, because tapping is obviously a lot easier than trying to do like a big long line with your unsteady hands. So just find those ways to kind of let the brush and the paint work for you rather than against you. You're going to see a lot more success, and you're going to have a lot easier time with some of these things that can be frustrating or can prove to be challenging. It's all about approach and patience, and practice. Like anything, you're not going to be perfect on it from the start. So through, and I'm just going to do a really quick second coat now that my first one is dried. That out. Red. Pick up, there we go. Smudge or something else. Don't want that. Get rid of it. So this part really quick. Out. of losing myself in the process here. So, Big Danny's asking kind of about coverage over a Zenith Prime. I mean, it kind of depends on what issues you're running into. Like, so you're saying the paint doesn't cover super well over it. The goal of the Zenith is to actually have the Zenith show through. So, you know, if we look at this guy's back where I did a Zenith, you know, these parts here, that's where the paint is not covering completely. These dark areas are the black kind of speckly Zenith Prime. So the idea is not to have it, you're not going to get super smooth Zenith. You don't want the colors to come out smooth necessarily, because the Zenith is what's going to give you texture. So the idea being that, you know, you're going to get these areas where you're going to have really bright, and then you're going to have kind of darker, and you're going to have that modeling from the Zenith. All that stuff works together to make the illusion or the visual appearance that, notice I had a little spot here, that you have that natural shading. So if you're looking for a really smooth, let's see, where do I have somebody who's not Zenith? Yeah, this is kind of a good example. So, like for example, if you look at the Hulk, which I airbrushed, right, the colors are really solid. They're very smooth. There's no modeling to them. It looks kind of like your classic, like a classically painted miniature, right? So this is kind of like what most people, I think, who are not doing Zenith are looking for. You're looking for those really like smooth base coats, and you're just going to build them up. So this was built up with an airbrush over layer, right? And we just kind of built it up. If you compare that to, I think this Venom will show it pretty well. So if you compare that to this Venom and kind of how he looks, and hopefully you can see like he's a lot less smooth in terms of kind of that classic blending. Like you can see how he has kind of a modeling. So the blends aren't as smooth, you know, the shades, the shifts aren't, they don't look like solid base coats, they look very different, right? And that's because this is just one layer of paint, and specifically on the black, not on the tongue. But this is just one layer of paint that's done as a wash over. And so wherever there's modeling, it's going to show through. But that texture, that color shift is going to work from the tabletop distance to give you that idea of shading, right? You're going to get kind of like harsher blends. You're going to get things that are a little smoother. Now you can smooth this stuff out by using, you know, additional layers of glazes, additional layers of wash. But it's always going to be there because your base coat isn't smooth. So your final result isn't going to be perfectly smooth. That's not the point of the technique. The technique is using that Zenith Prime, those very sharp contrasts between dark to light, and then kind of the speckled transitions in between, because you're shooting from a 45-degree angle, to make those blends happen in a very quick and yet still very effective manner. If you're just going for like really smooth base coats, then don't worry about doing the Zenith. You can, it'll help you kind of visualize where your highlights and stuff are, but it's a very different approach, and you're just going to have to continue to layer on really solid base coats to make that work. So hopefully that kind of helps a little bit in terms of like what we're talking about when we're looking at that. It's a very different, you know, like all styles or all techniques, you're going to get very different results in terms of like final looks, and it really is going to come down to like what kind of look you want. Ooh, getting sloppy. It's going to come down to what kind of look you ultimately want on the Mini, as to what technique you use, you know. I certainly have chosen different ways of doing things for different stuff. Like dry brushing is not going to give you the same result as base coating and layering. Pin washing is not going to give you the same kind of like end result as some of the others, because those techniques all have their own kind of like their own style, their own look to it. And I think that's part of the thing that, you know, you have to be not only cognizant about, but you kind of need to be like, okay, what do I want? What do I want out of my end result? Like, what do I want the look to be? How do I wanna like work within the techniques, and then what is that going to mean for how the end result looks? Because they're going to look very different. Two brush blending a mini, you know, to achieve kind of that studio or that painting competition finish with really smooth transitions and all that. Even if you're not painting to a competition level, which most people won't, it's still going to give you a very different end result than, say, doing a zenith or doing a base coat wash highlight will. And that's another, you know, it's another fun kind of unique identifier of painting, and another reason why, especially on this stream, one of the things we really like to try to show is not so much a recipe, so to speak, but like techniques. Because you can combine all these different techniques together to get really different and cool results, to kind of craft a painting style that you like for yourself. So, you know, if the zenith look isn't quite what you want, then use it for things that you like it on, and don't use it for things that you don't, or don't use it at all. You know, at least you know how the theory works and what it's trying to achieve, and hopefully that opens up some ideas for, you know, future use and stuff. And we'll really let you explore and dive in to finding your own style. It's like I come from, not the land down under, but I was born and raised in Montana, and so one of the only claim to fames that Montana ever had was the river runs through it. When they turned that book into a movie, you know, it all deals with fly fishermen in Montana, and there's a great part in that story where, you know, the author comes back and he's like, okay, well, my dad taught me and my brother how to fly fish, and this is how you do it. And his dad was very like traditional minister, and so there's no deviation from how you do it. So he teaches the method, right? And his brother, the author's brother, who's kind of a rebel and played by Brad Pitt, for those who have seen the movie, or now have a reason to see the movie, maybe you love Brad Pitt. He kind of stays, and the older brother goes away to college, and then he comes back, and it's like, let's go fishing. And what he sees that his brother has like really broken away from the formula of fly fishing, and he has created his own very unique styles of fly fishing through expression. And yeah, shadow casting, that's correct. That is chat, what they call it, shadow casting. It's the same idea with any hobby, with any paint, with any craft. You can obviously take direct lessons and just apply them and do it that way, but eventually, you know, you're going to just naturally put your own technique, your own spin on it, and that is really when the hobby becomes yours. Alright, so there's our really bright, shiny, white metal Thanos. He's looking pretty cool. I think we want to take him up to the next level. So I'm going to shift over to this white alchemy, which is like almost a pure white silver. And we're going to squeeze some of that into the palette. Maybe. Maybe I'm going to open it first because I haven't opened this one yet. Haha. No wonder it wouldn't come out. So this color is more like a semi-metallic. It's got metal flake in it, but it's also has more traditional color in it. So let's just play and see what we get out. We're just going to kind of like run this over really quick. And this will just kind of be a nice way to sell that white. Get that going. This is my second Thanos to paint, and I will say he's a lot of fun. It's always fun to really get to paint characters that have a gravitas behind them. And the cool thing about Marvel is I think so many of the characters fit that bill, that each one feels important. But I think given Thanos' kind of explosion into the pop culture and kind of the greater world thanks to those amazing MCU movies, he's definitely one where like you get to feel, you can feel the weight of like adding him to the game and what that means, and definitely a mentality that we took into it when play testing and designing and doing all the stuff we did for him. Such a fun and intriguing challenge, to try to get right, and always so worried about what that meant and what that would do. So I'm really excited for people to get to take their Thanos and throw him on the table in some ultimate encounter action, because I think that for me is one of the most exciting bits about kind of Thanos' arrival and what we were able to do. It's really fun to play in the game, don't get me wrong. I mean, who doesn't want to take Thanos with a couple of gems and a couple of his Infinity or his Black Watch or Black Order cronies, Black Order cronies, and just start causing problems for people. But it really is in that ultimate encounter when you get those ultimate gems going and everything's going on, that it just becomes so much fun, so wild. So we're just going to hit this really quick with that white. Because we have that nice speed metal coat down, we don't have to worry too much about coverage or doing a lot of coats. So that work was done ahead of time. I'm just trying to make sure that it's smooth. So I'm keeping this paint a little loose. And I'm just using my second brush to kind of smooth out the blends so that I get a nice even transition going on in the spots. Alright, so there we go. So got some really serious bright armor going on in this guy, which is great. That's what we wanted. Okay, so while that kind of dries out, I think we'll move on to the gauntlet. So, I do think we want to kind of make a nice little contrast with it, so I'm going to shift over to black metal, and we're going to do some really dark metal on this gauntlet to build it out. Kind of get it so that it'll be a nice little focal point. Tone this guy down a little bit. So let's see. I think we're just going to hit here. Hit over here. So I'm kind of just following some of the natural designs here. The gauntlet. The question is how far do I want to go with this? Come down a little bit dark. That. Come down. This whole back side of the gauntlet dark, actually. And of course, this black metal is not going to come out quite as dark as it would have had we not done it over a super bright white metallic undercoat. And that'll kind of work to our advantage too. So we'll get some natural tonal shift. I don't want all these fingers to be nice and dark. Have that going on. I think. Let's see. So, what I'm going to do is I'll come through. I'm going to do this little here. Kind of give a little bit of a tie-in. Kind of tie everything together here. We'll start. This is kind of the nice thing if you start with your light colors and then move to your dark colors. Dark obviously covers light a lot easier. So even though I didn't really know where I wanted to go with it, had I started with the dark and then been like, oh, I wish I had more light, it would have been a lot more work. Whereas now I can just kind of go through and pick my zones really easy, my spots that I want to deal with. I don't necessarily have to worry about doing 20 layers to make sure everything comes back up. So I think what we'll do these buttons right here underneath our brights in the dark. Darker steel. Come into the boot and we'll do this shin guard things in that darker steel. Like that. Come through the crack on this boot. This one. Yoop. This is where you just start to like really experiment and play. Kind of let your own eye be your guide. So there's no right or wrong here. There's just kind of like what you feel. It speaks to you. You know? And I still want to keep a fair amount of this Thanos really bright, really washed out, but having just a little bit of these darker spots will give the eye a place to rest, so it's not assaulted by all of this light. And it will brighten the areas around it too, by extension, because, let's see, what else? I feel like something on that belt needs to go, but I can't quite decide what. Maybe we'll get crazy and do this. That bottom side of the belt. Kind of like that. I'll give us a little room to play too. There we go. Finish off by coming and doing this. There. So now we're starting to see kind of some shape and form come alive. Here. Do you want to hit any of that up? I don't think I do. I think, yeah. Call that where we're at. So that should take care of my dark metals. Go back to those bright metals, and we're going to add a little bit of purple to them. Okay, so I'm going to take this Amethyst Alchemy, which is a purple metallic. It's got a nice lavender hue to it. Kind of talked about before, if you want it to be more purple, the best way to do that is to do a purple glaze using ink or a paint over the top of it once you're done. But obviously we aren't really worried about lavender. We like lavender. We want desaturated. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to thin it out kind of to a wash in itself, so it'll flow nice. And then we're just going to come in. Now we're going to kind of glaze our silver. I'm just going to push this really into the corners so that we can kind of get that color hue. We're not going to lose any of our metallosity, as Dallas would call it, because we're glazing with the semi-metallic paint. So this just kind of comes down to playing with the colors, making sure that we have areas that obviously still show that bright steel. So we want this to kind of tint the color, but we don't want it to dominate the color. So we're kind of just looking at, you know, areas of shadow or recesses where we might want this to be. I'm gonna push that stuff in. Bowling shoes. I mean, he's always had big shoes, so. That. Up here. Definitely want to get around these like shoulder pad areas. Here I can be a little thicker with it because I kind of want that color to really show. I'm going to exaggerate that depth. Head that up with that. That going on. Just going to push these colors into the corners. So mostly just letting my really loose paint, my thinned out wash, do the work for me by, you know, running into those crevices and those cracks in between these three-dimensional shapes. But I'm also controlling it a little bit with the brush, because it will run on you a bit, you know. It's going to go to areas where maybe you didn't want it, but the nice thing about washes is they're really easy to just kind of push around to where you want them to go. Just remember that. Take our brush, we'll clean off those tops. Make sure that it stays nice and shiny. And we'll get in between here. Get around this little nubby ball thing. Down here. Here. Push into that. The other thing that using this purple kind of like wash will do on the silver is it'll tie us back into that like desaturated purple lavender white cloth that we have going on Thanos himself. So it's just a nice way to tie everything together to give it kind of that cohesive look. So, you know, all of this is kind of color choice and playing with what you think looks good and goals for the end miniature. You know, we want to keep this Thanos pretty desaturated, pretty colory at the same time. still want that saturation to have a bit of life to it. So, I'm playing with these choices. Look at those boots, which would be in shadow, to be a bit more purple, a bit more shaded. As you can probably see, that purple glaze is a really strong presence on that really white metallic, so it doesn't take much to really start making things go crazy. That's okay, because we can always come back next time and do a little bit of reclaiming on some of these areas if we need to. Shadow, so we'll build up some of that more glaze here. Just kind of smooth it out. Get a bunch of it off. Your finger also makes a really great kind of option to wipe off. A bit of it. Here. That going on. Back around here. All right. Commitment to the bowling theme. Sorry. I got nothing on bowling. I don't bowl. That's a Pagani thing. I'm not much of a bowler, so the bowling puns are tough for me. You can certainly play around with like other ideas, but I'm not your bowling guy. I don't know much about it. I think all of my knowledge of bowling came from either like Galaxy Bowling in high school, which was the super late night blacklight bowling name that we had at our bowling alley. And I wasn't good at it. It was just like one of the two things you could do on a Friday or Saturday night as a high school kid in Great Falls, Montana. Or the movie Kingpin. I think that's it. That's what I know. Tinting on that. Put that in. Kind of build that up. Kingpin is art. See, I told you, Pagani, he's your bowling guy. He's there for you. He's ready to make it happen. All right, let's pick a color for Thanos' face before we end today. But I'm feeling pretty happy with this. Like, we have our saturated purple cloth. We've got our metal in a good spot. We just need to go back through and kind of like highlight back up, rebuild some of those colors. But I think we're doing pretty good here. We're getting it going. So, Thanos' face. The question is, do we want to do it really dark? Or do we want to do something that's like really light? And do we want to follow the purple or not? All good questions that I don't have answers to right now. Let's see. What does the chat think? We could do like a really light kind of teal. We go dark and really black. Well, I mean, white fish in general is definitely interesting. Do it white. I mean, it kind of was already done if we want to do it that way. I think we need to make it pop. Let's get crazy. I'm going to try this Caribbean blue. So we're going to use this, which is a kind of a blue teal. Same color that we used a little bit on Nebula some time ago when we painted her on stream. So let's just thin that out nice. Use this to glaze that Zenith Prime. Give us a little spot of color there that I think will look pretty good with everything else we got going on. There. It's a little evocative of the Thanos-like face, but very different. Do you need to take the throne when you play the Thanos game? It's part of the map setup. Now, do you need to? I don't know. Do you need to do anything in life? I guess if you choose not to, you don't have to, but you wouldn't be following the map setup. So, alright, so there's our face. We got our silvers done. We'll come back in and clean those up. Dallas is currently traveling, so he will not be joining us on Thursday. Instead, you'll get a double dose of Shick home stream. So we're going to come back. We're going to continue to work on our Thanos. We're going to wrap him up this week. I'm pretty happy with the progress we made. We definitely have the whites going on. We got the cloth. So we'll continue to bring it up. And then don't worry, though, because I'm pretty sure you're going to get a double dose of Dallas next week, because then I will be away from the home office for a little bit. So we'll just be switching. So I will check you guys out online on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Show us what you're doing. Show us what you're working on. I'm very much looking forward to coming back on Thursday and finishing out this Thanos. We'll be doing a lot of work on the gems and stuff. And just wrapping up this experiment into sinister, desaturated Thanos. Otherwise, guys, stay safe. Enjoy all of the time out there. Continue to hit us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Show us what you're working on. Don't forget about that monthly painting challenge that's going on. Hashtag painting protocol on Instagram. We are looking for your best textures this month. So all of the cool textures that you got going on, that is what we're looking for. So your leathers, your cloth, your fur, your alien skin, so many options. So again, thank you all for hanging out with me and enjoying some painting. I hope you guys had some fun, learned some techniques. I look forward to seeing what you guys apply to your own stuff. And I will check you guys out Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific time for our next Thanos live stream on Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. Take care, guys. Be safe, and we will see you on the next one.